Hello internet humanoids, I'm Gary Tips, and usually on my channel I do anime what if stories, aka fanfic, alongside manga animations. I also have a bit of a gambling addiction, love for gacha games. And of course one of my favourites is Honkai Star Rail, which I don't think I need to explain what it is, because if you don't know, then what are you really doing here? Now for this video, I will be going over some ideas for future Paths gameplay, as it's only natural that as we uncover more information about the Paths, more will become playable. And I've actually been thinking up this video idea ever since 2.1 with Sunday and the Order, and this is my first video of this style, so bear with me, okay? So what are the criteria for this video? Well, first, there's a problem that all of the paths available already cover a wide range of gameplay. We can't have a new path focused on healing because abundance already exists. Same thing with paths focused on single attacks with hunt, or a path focused on shielding because of preservation. So I will have to get a bit creative here. Currently, there are 18 paths total that we know of in the lore, but only 8 of them are actually playable, which leaves us with elation, vivacity, permanence, propagation, enigmata, equilibrium, finality, and order. So before we begin, I do have to go over some ideas. I have to remind you here that this video is largely just food for thought. So if you have your own ideas for actual character kits, then put them down below, as this is more I'm going over the basic idea of each path and then giving some basic examples, right? I mean, for example, like, the hunt is focused on single attack, right? But Archer and Fei Xiao are very different characters with their own unique kits, right? So please remember that. So anyways, let's actually begin with... Like I said in the intro, this is the first idea I had, way before Sunday was released, or we even knew he was alive. Now, the likelihood of a playable follower of the Order is very unlikely, as for all we know, the family were the only ones left, but that doesn't really matter. Now for gameplay, the Order will focus on turning enemies into allies. What this means is characters following the Order will focus on using enemies against one another. Think like Kafka's dominating effect, which makes your character attack another. Or maybe the legally distinct Pokemon battle event. I really think this is far more flexible than I first thought, as there's such a wide variety of enemies and effects, and some enemies may even have unique abilities alongside it. Which means you can be the one to take away the enemy's out. This one is weird, but for beauty, I decided to go with something very unique and creative, and a bit confusing. Basically, I'll try and say this the best way I can. Each beauty character will have a unique type, which is a description of what they consider beautiful and what they consider as ugly, if that makes sense. Depending on the character's type, effects will be given out to either the character, other characters, or enemies. These types can be simple or very complex. A more complex type would be a character's type consists of liking animals but hates those that harm animals. Well then, any character that has an animal theming or summons an animal will get buffs, so heals, damage buffs, shields, etc. But any enemies that hurt animals or attacks one of those animal-related characters, which is majority, will have a debuff, whilst the Path Strider gets buffed. However, if the enemy is an animal, then the character can't do anything to them and will take debuffs. Other examples of types could consist of elements, or what element an enemy is weak to, or what paths a character follows, or what the enemy is, or what status a character is in, etc, etc. The type of a follower of beauty is like a kind of set restriction or law that may be more flexible than others. And even like in my example, it could even apply to model types, or even colours, or themes, or characters' personalities. I think an example would be if we had a motherly or fatherly-like character, then characters using smaller models may get buffs, or they might get more protection points or something if those characters take damage. Basically, this path focuses on a delicate balance and placement in teams and understanding of your enemies and allies. It also makes you appreciate the work of the design team. And the reasoning for this idea of gameplay is that each follower of beauty's definition of beauty is different, as although Argentina and all of the Knights of Beauty purely see their Aeon as the purest form of beauty, other followers may not be the same case. They might find something else to be beautiful. The veracity is probably one of the more simple paths as it's focused on, well, consuming. What this would mean for gameplay is that each veracity character will get buffs and regain strength by defeating or possibly even insta-killing enemies. Each veracity character will also have a charge, and under specific circumstances they will consume that charge to get an effect. Again, this is quite simple. For example, you can have a character that instantly can kill/eat a small enemy once it is at or below 20% health. That character can then receive or give out buffs depending on the enemy consumed. It could even lead to a new gameplay ability to be able to use items during battle. No. All characters following the Enigmata will have the ability to remove or modify past moves from a battle's history. What this intakes is under special circumstances, a past move will have never happened or something else would have happened, and the effect will have changed, such as attacks, buffs, debuffs, heals, shields, etc. Let's say the enemy attacked your team. Then, using the past Strider's ability, you can make that attack have never happened, removing any of the effects that were caused by it. You could also change that move, making the enemy instead attack their own allies or even a different character. Some Enigmata characters could even remove characters' deaths from history, reviving them. The reason for this is that Enigmata is personally my favourite path in the game. I just love that there's like a billion people going around spreading misinformation. It's just fun, and I really do think this could be great for game, would be really cool for gameplay. Having the ability to change or remove an effect or move from the past. It just seems cool. So you know how each character is an archetype, right? Stuff like healing or dots or follow-up attacks or super break or elements or whatever. Well, relation characters see that and say yes. You see, each follower of relation does whatever they want. They may apply a random element to an enemy. You may target an enemy and they may hit a different enemy. They'll pass around as RNG basically. But to be more specific and be more likely, there'll probably be 3 different variants of their basic attack, skill and burst, with each character doing a random one of these 3 choices. So let's say we were to get a Sparkle variant in the future that follows this hypothetical path of relation. Well, she would have 3 different basic attacks. Let's say one uses up all your skill points to do 1 giant nuke of damage, meanwhile another may pick 1 ally to be healed, or she may mark an enemy with an effect. This is just a general idea, right? Elation characters will have multiple versions of 1 move, but which variation is used will be random. Also, probably for gameplay reasons, there would also be specific circumstances that can allow you to select a specific move. Multiple lives! Each time they die, they revive in a different form. Okay, so I admit, it was only at this point in the script that I realised that the simulated universe and its blessings exist, and that includes propagation. So, in the simulated universe, the propagation focuses on skill point consumption and duplication and basic attack enhancements. Now for this hypothetical scenario of propagation becoming playable, I will remove the basic attack buffs. I just see it as a bit more limiting for a whole class to be focused purely on basic attacks, so we will keep with the skill point mumbo jumbo. I actually think lots of propagation characters could have their own unique skill point, similar to what's seen in many bosses such as Sam's, and how this would work is you would have to use that one skill point, that one special skill point, for a unique effect to happen. I think an example would be a character, maybe their ultimate, gives you like 20 skill points, and you somehow have to use all of those skill points up to be able to get to that one that is special and glowing. Okay, so the whole point of the equilibrium is that nobody understands it, but from what I can tell, it embodies stillness, where everything is equal in every way. So this is going to be a bit more of the more confusing side of things. As a playable path, I can see it being interpreted as making both teams equal in some way. This can be in speed, attack, shared buffs or debuffs or statuses. Some characters following this path may be able to stop anything from happening, all attacks and buffs and debuffs from both enemies and allies will be stacked for the duration. But once the countdown ends on the action order board, all of those effects will hit everyone at once, meaning it would be best to use this counter when you're sure the enemy wouldn't be able to kill you normally in the amount of actions until the countdown. Another idea is having one character or an enemy sharing states. So you could pick a character that already has a ton of debuffs and an enemy chosen will gain the same debuffs, whether this would also share any buffs the chosen character has, or vice versa. You can pick an enemy with any buffs and debuffs and it will be added to a character, but both will be converted, so you may accidentally give an enemy your shield or even your Ron-May buff, etc. But for more versatility and numbers in characters of this path, I would suspect the Equilibrium characters may focus each on sharing specific things. So one character would focus on purely sharing debuffs between enemies or characters, whilst another focuses on sharing buffs. Basically, the Equilibrium path will focus on replicating or making sure multiple characters or multiple enemies have the same statuses or are equal. I think we all agree at some point in HSR we will inevitably get a playable Trailblaze path. It's literally the path the main cast follows, so it'll probably be whenever the MC becomes an Aeon. But anyways, the Trailblaze path will focus on effects happening whenever a new aspect of the battle is introduced or happens. This one is going to be confusing. I originally had the script written out, but I'm just going to rant about it for a second. Basically, whenever something new happens, whenever a new enemy type shows up, whenever a new move is used, whenever a new effect is applied, anything new, anything that happens for the first time will lead to a new point to the Trailblaze character's charge. Think like sirens. That's the best way I'm going to describe it, because for some reason I've written out like a giant paragraph of descriptions, right? Anytime something happens for the first time, anything happens for the first time, a Trailblaze character will gain a charge. Gain a point to their charge, leading to an ultimate or follow-up attack or buffs. Basically, I'm taking the law of how the Trailblaze gains power-fuel the more it explores-experiences new things, and turns it into gameplay. Fitting for the end, huh? Anyways, followers of the finality will have the ability to see or influence the future of the battle. This is done in the action bar, which next to the enemy or above them would be their next move, allowing you to easily predict and work around it. So I'm sure we've always been in this situation. You use a basic attack instead of healing, and because of this, your DPS dies. Well, a finality character can prevent that, allowing you to see that the enemy is going to attack. Of course, seeing the enemy's next action will need special circumstances to happen, such as marking a single enemy and seeing their next attack whilst also applying a debuff that makes it do less of whatever it's meant to do, so a weaker buff or less damage done or less dot applied, etc. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Again, this is my first time doing a video of this style, and hey, if it does well, I might begin to make more. Just comment any ideas you have for kits or hypothetical characters, or even any changes you would make to my decisions for these paths. Just remember to be respectful. Oh, and also comment any future video ideas, whether it's this kind, what ifs, or animations, and enjoy your day.